Happy Thursday. Welcome here to a bye-week edition of Husker Online Headlines. Sean Callahan, Steve Sipple. As we do every week, we bring you the 5 biggest headlines from Husker Online. And Sipple, let's get right to it. Headline number 1 here as we sit at the midway point of Matt Rhule's first season. Offensive coordinator Marcus Satterfield has a mega task going forward. Now 4 season-ending injuries on the offense, with the latest being wide receiver Marcus Washington, running backs Ramir Johnson and Gabe Ervin Jr., then earlier in the year, Isaiah Garcia Castaneda, then to start fall camp, tight end Arik Gilbert, and wide receiver Xavier Betts left the program. You have 6 high-level frontline players that are no longer with this offensive unit that started with the unit when fall camp started in August.
Oh, it is really, I mean, this is oh my God. The only bad thing about this, Sean, is we're starting with a bummer. Because if you put all those guys on this offense, it wouldn't look like Ohio State. Don't get me wrong, but it'd look pretty good. It would.
It'd be one of the better ones in the West, maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, I don't know. That's like saying you're the best ice fisherman in Florida right now, but it's still an accomplishment.
It's kind of like that. But I'll tell you one thing. Even sitting at 1 and 2 with what Nebraska's got left, you would feel like, oh, they got a shot. So it's really, really unfortunate. Now, the other thing it does is I don't mind saying it, it's kind of weird, but it alleviates pressure on Marcus Satterfield. You can't go. I mean, here I go, the biggest coach apologist in America, but you can't go hard at Satterfield now. I mean, what do? He's just got to every week piece together something and hope maybe you can get to 24 points.
Well, then, I mean, even the Jeff Sims, Heinrich Harburg discussion, I mean, I don't think anybody could have predicted that Heinrich Harburg would be the starter. And
no way.
And, I think it's a debate. No, is he the starter because Sims is hurt, or is he the starter now because he's better than Sims?
Well, and Rhule this week sort of said that could have easily been Chubba. When Sims went down, but Chubba was hurt
at Colorado.
Yeah, Chubba was still getting back from an injury. So, yeah, in a sense, you would say that Heinrich Harburg fell into this, but he's taken advantage of it. He's rough around the edges in the passing game, but he's a great runner. He's their best runner. Gives him the best chance.
It's kind of, you use the Purdy analogy. It's kind of like Brock Purdy in San Francisco, and nobody expected him to be the quarterback for the Niners. He beat out Garoppolo, Trey Lance, a number of pretty good players, and he's the guy. And not saying Harburg's like Brock Purdy by any means, but I don't think a year ago when we were doing these shows, we would have said Heinrich Harburg would be 3-1 as a starter.
Oh my God, you would have said, I would have said, Sean, you're crazy. They like you've said it a lot. They weren't even including him in meetings.
Logan Smothers had a better chance a year ago to be 3-1 as a starter right now than Heinrich Harburg.
Yeah, it's. And we've covered this, but it's actually a really good story, what's happening right now. It would be a better story if he was a little more polished as a passer. But 3-1's 3-1 with a great opportunity, Sean, to go 4-1. But back to Satterfield, I don't know. I think about just what we heard this week. If you just look at the running back position where, as you mentioned, he's lost 2 guys. They're 2 best guys, Gabe Ervin and Ramir Johnson. And then their third best guy, as it was on the depth chart anyway, clearly has an issue right now. A big enough issue that Matt Rhule spoke at length about it during his Tuesday press conference about Anthony Grant struggling to hold on to the ball. So that's the picture. At running back after Grant, it's a redshirt freshman, Emmett Johnson, who's a good kid. I always feel like people take it that I'm being critical of him. I'm not. But he's a redshirt freshman. He's undersized. Okay, in the Big Ten, and then you have Fleeks. I don't know, Sean. It might be Fleeks ahead of Emmett Johnson. It's hard to read, but that's what. And Fleeks is just came over from receiver. That's what you got.
Well, and they might need Fleeks at receiver just as much as they need him at running back right now. Somebody asked us that this week on Husker Online. What could Fleeks go back to receiver? And I mean, it's a fair question.
Well, it is a fair question, except that I think they need him more at running back.
Yeah.
See that, or both. Maybe he could do both.
Think about it, he was suspended for fall camp. for a few days because he showed up overweight. So there's the offensive situation, and the O-line is still the O-line. I mean, they're not by. I mean, what is the best thing they can do right now? Heinrich Haarberg can create with his legs,
right? And Coach Rule has alluded to the fact he's a little beat up. He also, it's very peculiar to me, but Rule has said it a couple times that he gets fatigued. I mean, they're asking a lot of him, but he's in good shape. I mean, I don't look at Heinrich and go, "Oh man, he's kind of puffy." No, he's not. He's a well-conditioned athlete, but he gets tired apparently.
It's a lot of weight to run that fast with.
It is. That's true, and there's a lot of what I would be concerned about, and maybe these guys don't think like this. Maybe I'm being soft, sign of the times type thing here.
Sensitive, Steve.
Sensitive. The mental fatigue I wonder about. I mean, he's got to carry a lot. Heinrich. They're going to lean on him a lot, Sean. If they're going to beat a good team, he's probably got to run for close to 100 and throw for close to 200, right?
What I like, though, about Haarberg is he understands what it means to play for Nebraska, to be a Nebraska quarterback, and it's important to him at a high level.
Oh, yeah. That's true.
And his dad played here. He grew up here. And so, there's just this sense of obligation when he's out there and importance. And I'm not saying other quarterbacks didn't feel that way to an extent, but it's more with him. You can just feel it. And
no, Sean, I 100% agree with that. And that's part of the reason I'm drawn to him. He just has a lot to deal with, as does Satterfield. So you got to piece it together somehow. And at receiver, which we haven't even talked about, which is fine. I mean, you're going to now it's Kemp. It's Alex Bullock
and freshman.
And then you've got to get something out of those freshmen. And we're talking about Malachi Coleman and Jalen Lloyd and Jaden Doss. And I think of those three, you'll start to see Doss move into the forefront.
I hope this week with the 3 practices they had, they really got him going more.
Yeah, I bet they did.
Coleman, they've played now more than 4 games.
Mm-hmm.
Doss Lloyd's at 4.
Mm-hmm.
So those 2 guys, I think all 3 of those guys will play more than 4 because they're going to have to by necessity. And it's not ideal, but you would like to see Coleman's production increase too. I mean,
he's got 1 catch
and he played 50 some snaps that 1 week. And so is he not getting open? Are they not throwing him the ball? I mean, is he just learning? We know the abilities there with Malachi Coleman.
Yeah. You hope that, and I like him. I think, there's a reason why. I know I talk more glowingly about Jaden Doss, but there's a reason why those guys are with the varsity, we'll say, just put it that way. They're with the there's a reason. They've distinguished themselves throughout the weeks of practice and shown the coaches that they can help. Now, you want to see it carry into the game for sure. I mean, Coleman is the kind of guy that can Malachi's the kind of guy that can take a slant and go the route. You just like to see it.
I do like that they're going to be home the next 2 weeks.
That helps.
With young receivers, it's more comfortable setting for these guys.
100%, Sean.
And I'm not thinking that Michigan State in early November is going to be as far as road atmospheres,
it'll be a really tough.
It'll be a crowd that's going to be shifted towards hockey season and basketball season there.
Well, the Lions are playing really well.
Yeah.
So I that trip will be really tough. But yeah, these guys, I always say about freshmen, there's a lot they deal with. Everything is happening for the first time. They're kind of away from home for the first time. They're going to, they'll be going to East Lansing for the first time. There's a lot of firsts, and there's a lot to work through. So I'm not being hard on them, but what you hope though, Sean, is they take ownership and say, God, if we're going to have the kind of season we want, it's a lot on us now, guys.
All right, before we get to headline number 2, HuskerOnline headlines brought to you by Bauer Underground. They're helping shape Nebraska's infrastructure future, and they're looking for new members to join the team with open positions for laborers, equipment operators, aerial linemen, and foremen. Bauer Underground is searching for the best in construction. Visit BauerUnderground.com to learn more about career opportunities and industry-leading benefits, including competitive pay, employer-paid health insurance, dental, disability, vision, life insurance, 401k match, new top-of-the-line equipment, and a clothing allowance. No experience in underground utility construction? No problem. Bauer will train the right people in the field. giving you a hands-on experience that you need to have a long, rewarding career. Want to learn more? Visit Bauer Underground on Facebook to visit testimonials from Bauer teammates about their experiences, their company culture, and the importance of their work. I can tell you, they have great tailgate parties for all of their infrastructure workers every home game. And a lot of those guys, they go up and sit in the skybox right by Sip and I. So they have an unbelievable culture at Bauer, and they are a Nebraska-owned, family-owned company, locations around the state. Want to learn more? Visit Bauer Underground on Facebook or BauerUnderground.com to come start your new career today. Thank you, Bauer Underground, for sponsoring us here on Husker Online Headlines. All right, let's get into headline number 2. The Big Ten is set to have 9 Friday night games in 2024, and that's not counting Black Friday.
Oh, it's not.
That's not counting non-conference. 9 conference games.
That's not. Wow. That's a lot. Now,
and Tony Petitti made those comments to The Athletic at Big Ten basketball media days in Minneapolis this week. So essentially, you're looking, it's a 9-game conference schedule with bye weeks in there. You're going to have a Friday night game pretty much every week.
Yes. Now, the teams that probably won't be involved, though, are Michigan and Ohio State, I imagine. What about Penn State? Well, Penn
State has played at Maryland, and I don't know about Rutgers, but I know they've had a Maryland Friday night game. But you look at places that they play Friday night games, it's generally confined to these stadiums. Like Memorial Stadium, I truly believe this will never host a Friday night game, ever. It just,
because
logistically it doesn't make sense. And I think when you look at places, Rutgers, Illinois, Purdue, Michigan State, like this year, this type of game could be a Friday night game. Maryland, Northwestern, and Indiana. I think those are all possibilities. Now, next year, Nebraska plays at Indiana and at Purdue. So I would think that one of those games is going to be on Friday night. Don't you think?
Yes, I think you're right. I find the angle I find interesting is that I don't think Michigan, Ohio State will ever be involved in this Friday night.
You might know, and you know why? Because they're too valuable on Saturday.
Right.
The ratings that those teams bring, Fox cannot afford to lose those on Saturday.
And wouldn't you say there was a time when Nebraska was that
close?
There was a time.
Yeah, I mean,
not in the Big Ten era.
Here's the difference.
Not while Nebraska.
The amount of alumni of those schools. The University of Nebraska, what do they graduate a year? 6,000 graduates. Ohio State graduates 12,000. I mean, so there's just by pure numbers, Ohio State and Michigan and Penn State have more fans because there's more population, more graduates, more student body. And that's where Nebraska is a little bit limited. But yeah, I think it's a safe bet every year Nebraska will play a Friday night road game on top of a Black Friday game.
That's interesting, Sean. And now the other question that people would have is, will there be a point when this bleeds into Thursdays?
No. College football used to be a Thursday night deal. And Nebraska's played Thursday night games at Southern Miss, at Texas Tech, at Oklahoma State.
Yeah.
The Rice game is a 9/11. They've got a history. They played Missouri on a Thursday night.
That's right. That's right. I forgot about that, Sean. I did. I forgot. Those were Thursday night games.
Yes. You were in Hattiesburg, right?
Yeah, hell yeah.
But once the NFL said we're going to start playing on Thursday, then college football had to switch over to Friday, at least the Power 5 games.
Yeah, because there's some games still on Thursday nights.
And whatever data they have, they just must know that if you put a Power 5 game on Thursday when the NFL's on, you're just going to destroy the rating.
Okay.
So then college goes to Friday, and they'll get 1 or 2 million viewers for a game that if you aired on a Saturday would not get that many viewers.
I don't know. I hear other commentators talk about how their disdain for teams playing on Friday. I don't necessarily share it. I don't know if the enthusiasm of the fans the same. Like when we went to Illinois last week, was the enthusiasm of Nebraska fans for that game the same as it would be if that was a Saturday game?
It seemed that way.
It didn't seem that way?
It seemed.
Oh, it seemed that way. I thought so.
I think initially in 2017, when Nebraska played its first Friday night game ever at Illinois, there was a big, scuttle about it. But
because the high school the high school games are interrupted.
In high school football, though, now it's different than it used to be.
How so?
I felt like growing up, you had to go to a high school game to see it. Now you can watch it on your phone, follow updates. They're on TV.
Yep.
There are a lot more ways. And let's face it, like in Nebraska high school football, it's no longer a neighborhood sport anymore. Like when I was growing up, like you'd want to go watch, like, it's a gross, but like Bryan or South, you knew kids playing because they're now.
Isn't it that the same at all? You have a better handle than I do.
In Omaha go all over the city and play for so the better players are playing. So it doesn't have the same feel.
Okay.
Like there are so many games now in Nebraska high school football where you already know before it starts, it's going to be a 50-point win.
Oh God.
And just the disparity of the top 10 versus like the next group. So I do think come playoff time, it's different, but in the regular season, it doesn't have a lot of the same, for whatever reason. They've gone away from a geographical conference schedule. They have a district schedule that's redone every year based on how you've done the previous 2 years. So you could have like Omaha North playing South Sioux City, just games that don't make sense.
Would there be a chance, Sean, of Nebraska playing 2 Friday night games next year?
I wouldn't say no, but that I'm more interested too. Well, like they play them on the West Coast. Like could Washington host one?
Right. That would be interesting.
Could Oregon? I mean,
God,
it seems like USC is going to be above hosting a Friday. They've done it before.
That would be quite an interruption of the norm if Nebraska had to go out and play on a coast, play UCLA on a Friday night. That's a big ask.
Well, I wrote down 7 teams that I think could host Friday games. If there's 9, you still got to have 2 other places that have them. So there could be some repeat places, or places like Iowa or Wisconsin could host. I mean, again,
Wisconsin hosted a Friday night game this year against Purdue.
Was that at Purdue?
It was at Purdue. My bad. That was at West Lafayette.
Again, they don't generally put the Friday night games in the big cathedral venues. They're always at more of like the places that don't have the blue blood or consistency of their fan base.
That's a really interesting topic.
So yeah, that's going to be a debate. And when you have 18 teams in a conference and you're going to be getting all this money, there's a lot of mouths to feed and everyone wants money. So you have to create more exclusive windows. So you're going to have the Friday night window. You're going to have the 11 a.m. Big Noon window. You're going to have the 2:30 CBS window. You're going to have the NBC night window. And you might even have a later night window as well that features the West Coast teams.
Inventory. You
got to create inventory. Yep. And you're seeing the NFL. I mean, the Chiefs are going to play at 8:30 in the morning in Germany against the Dolphins.
Good God. You do what you got to do.
Before we get on to headline number 2, Husker Headlines brought to you by CHI, Pediatric Place at St. Elizabeth in Lincoln here. I want to tell you a little bit more about that because if you have a little one and you ever have to go to an emergency room, this is a great option for you and your family. Taking a young child to an emergency room is not a pleasant experience. Anyone that's ever had to do it before. Well, St. Elizabeth's here in Lincoln has a fully dedicated ER just for children. And it's open 24 hours, 7 days a week. You don't have to schedule an appointment. So if you do have something that requires immediate attention, St. Elizabeth's Hospital here in Lincoln has a dedicated space called Pediatric Place. Helps kind of put kids at ease, child-friendly waiting rooms. It's just a really, really good way to handle, because going to a normal emergency room, you never know what you're going to walk into. And the last thing you want to do is scare your kids, when they have to go to the hospital. So this is a great option with CHI Health. Visit chihealth.com/pediatric place to learn more about Lincoln's only ER just for kids. Thanks again to CHI and Pediatric Place for sponsoring us here on the Husker Online Show. All right, let's get in. Headline number 3, bye-week recruiting. The rising stock of Kewan Lacey. I want to start there first, but there's a lot I want to get into because Kewan Lacey is Nebraska's running back commit in this class, 4-star out of Lancaster, Texas, which is Dallas, having a great year. Lane Kiffin was in his school this week to see him.
Great.
Florida has offered him. Alabama is talking to him.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of things going on with Lacey. Now, Nebraska did get Lacey up here for the Michigan game, which I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but he was able to come into Lincoln. But it's going to be a battle, and Nebraska will have a coach down there to see him. Not Matt Rule will not be down there to go see him this week. But Lacey is a priority because he could play next year.
Right. Lacey is a priority. He's the number 16 running back in the country, according to On3's rankings. I think when you put the combined rankings, he's 28, whatever. He's a top 30 running back no matter what. I liked him right away when I saw his film because he's a North and South guy. I did notice too, Sean, that the Ole Miss writer for the On3 Ole Miss site referred to Nebraska's 3-3 record as putrid. Getting a little zing in at Nebraska as Ole Miss pursues him. They say that there's sort of a the comp, if you will, is Quinshawn Judkins, who's a fabulous Ole Miss back. Yeah, Nebraska, Sean. This is what happens though when you're going after one of the top. Hey, Sean, you can make a case that he's the top remaining available player. Well, I know he's technically not available. The top player in the 2024 class right now, still being pursued.
Carter Nelson too, and we'll get into that in a second here.
Ooh, Carter Nelson.
Yeah, Notre Dame is on him hard.
Oh,
still.
God.
So Kewan Lacey, though, you're right. I mean, he could play immediately next year because Anthony Gratt's gone.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know about Ramir Johnson. I mean, we assume he's coming back.
Mm-hmm.
Gabe Ervin, the hip injury, you never know how
Right.
guys come back off those injuries.
No, you don't. So this is a big one. And this is what happens, though, right? This is what happens. I mean, you got to keep recruiting them. But man, those SEC teams are coming hard. Missouri, Florida, Alabama, you mentioned, Ole Miss. SEC's coming hard after him. So Nebraska's gonna have to really, really dig in.
They got to get him up here again.
Okay.
I think in October if they can,
Yeah.
or for the Maryland game. It'd be nice to get him back again for another home game.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully a win.
Mm-hmm.
The Michigan game wasn't exactly a great day to showcase.
No, it wasn't. The environment was good, at least to start. I don't know, and
It was hot.
You've talked to a lot of kids though. Well, that works in Nebraska's favor, probably the weather that day. You've talked to a lot of kids that they're seemingly unaffected by
A loss.
Yeah, like they see losses. Their schools lose. They get around the country. That's maybe part of that figures into their thought process somewhere, but it just always seems like there's things that are far above that. Relationship with the coaches being one, what they're telling them about how they fit in the offense, stuff like that. It feels like that's bigger. Family, what the family thinks. They're always looking for a family environment, it seems like.
Now, what are other bye-week priorities for Nebraska?
Yeah,
I think
what is
Grant Bricks, Logan Magnolia still remains uncommitted.
Mystery, right?
Big mystery. Brian Munson talked to him this week. Really no update. I mean, it's almost like he's gone backwards with his timeline and his process.
What do you make of that?
He's just wired differently, how he's handling his recruiting process. He hasn't been on trips during the season. He's just kind of sitting back. I mean, I do think Nebraska's probably the team to beat. I would expect Matt Rule will swing by Logan Magnolia here this week to see him. So keep your eyes on Grant Bricks and kind of how that plays out. Because he's obviously a big target here for Nebraska down the stretch.
Is Carter Nelson, is that something to watch?
Yeah, and then Carter Nelson, I wouldn't be surprised if we see Matt Rule out there to watch him play Friday. And Notre Dame is on him hard. They had a coach, one of their recruiting staff members is able to travel because they have an assistant coach that is not traveling right now for a health reason. So that recruiting staff member flew into Omaha or wherever he went to, and then went out to Elgin
to watch him
watch a Class D2 Nebraska high school football game.
I like him.
So they clearly want him. They're trying to get him to come back out again. They're on him hard. I mean, and he talks that I think for Carter, you've been out to Ainsworth a few times now. How hard do you think it is to get to South Bend to Ainsworth when you play Friday nights? It's not easy.
No.
So that is the one advantage Nebraska has. And Carter Nelson has been to every Nebraska home game.
It just seems like it would be a massive upset for Notre Dame to come in and steal him at this point.
Well, there's just this like Nebraska is kind of vulnerable right now with where their program's at, and these bigger programs like Notre Dame or Ole Miss, they just like think that they can just come in and it's like coming in and taking your girlfriend. I'm better looking. I'm going to just take your girlfriend right now in front of you. And I mean, that's what they do. They
like that. Yeah.
I mean, they're like, why are you dating her? Why are you dating him? Yeah. I'm going to come in and just take you right now. And that's what Notre Dame's trying to do. That's what Ole Miss is trying to do. And, putrid 3-3 record.
That's what the Ole Miss guy wrote. That's what the Ole Miss guy wrote.
Yeah. That seems a little
editorializing.
It's a recruiting update.
It was I'm telling you, Sean, I read it right before I got on here. That was in the recruiting update. Nebraska's putrid 3-3 record. Yeah, all's fair in love and war, apparently. But I come on, Notre Dame. Can they come in and steal Nebraska's the number one player in the state of Nebraska? I got to think that's a long shot. Notre Dame's about to go down again, by the way. That'd be their third. It'll be their third loss if they lose to USC on Saturday.
Yeah.
They've lost to Louisville. Of course, they lost to Ohio State. I mean, they're not tearing it up now.
I mean, the line is thin for them, but yeah, they're not in a conference. So like they're out of it at this point. I mean,
anyway, what else? What else is the deal, Sean?
Yeah. Your coaches will be out Thursday and Friday this week. And, this is really the only time they'll get out in full force. I would imagine high school Nebraska state championship games, they'll have coaches present at some of those in Memorial Stadium if they have days left. I mean, you only get so many days that you can be out on the road.
And you're going to watch kids that are committed. And what you're looking for, I believe, I mean, I've heard coaches say this, is you're looking for these kids that you already have. You're trying to gauge if they're still working hard. Are they having good years? Are they in good shape? Are they fully dialed in, or did they relax after they made their commitment? So you're watching that because, Sean, you want them to continue to develop. I mean, you don't want them to go stale. I always thought remember Texas with Mac would sign those classes really early. And I think some of those kids went kind of stale. And by the time they got to campus, they were stale.
You don't want that to happen. You have to sign classes early because of the December signing period.
So you want to stay on the kids and say, hey, come on. I mean, we know that you're locked in here, but that doesn't mean you can relax, right? Right?
Oh, no doubt. I mean, another guy I want to bring up, they're not probably going to be out to see him. Maybe they will. I don't know. We don't know this for sure. Alex Mansky, the 2025 quarterback at Algona, Iowa. He's thrown 25 touchdowns and no interceptions. So get this, 86 completions, 25 are touchdowns.
That's beautiful.
And he's an excellent runner. I mean, he's a big physical Josh Allen type player. So that is kind of their number one quarterback for the future. And I mean, there's some people that think he's better than Caitlin. When you look at the body of work and what he's doing. I mean, last week he was 12 of 17 for 245 and 3 touchdowns.
That's that kid that me and Abby saw at camp, right?
That you missed. You're still writing about somebody else.
Bellevue West backup.
Yeah, but he's their number one 2025 quarterback. They offered him at camp, and he's having a huge year. So I would imagine if they're not there this week, they will be down there very soon. And the thing with Alex Mansky is, will he get some of the bigger offers? Well, Notre Dame, will not Ohio State, maybe a Michigan or someone like that. Will those types of teams come on him, or will he stay more regionalized?
Okay. Well, that's something to watch.
All right.
Alex Mansky is a big name right now.
All right. Before we take it to headline number 4, HuskerOnline Headlines is presented by Underdog Sports. We see a lot of you are downloading Underdog, using the promo code and having fun, which we love to see. If you haven't already checked them out, be sure to do so. It's super easy to use. You go on the app, you pick whether your favorite player will have a higher or lower stat total than what's listed. For example, if Travis Kelce's number is set for 50 yards and Taylor Swift is going to be in the house, you feel confident he's going to get way higher than that number. Do that with 2 to 5 different players. You're in business. If you go 5 for 5, you can go 20 times your money. Sign up today with promo code Husker to get your first deposit doubled of up to $100. Visit UnderdogFantasy.com or find them in the App Store. And don't forget to register with my promo code Husker to get your first deposit doubled of up to $100. There are a lot of fantasy companies out there, but we've decided to partner with Underdog because it's the easiest place to play fantasy, and it's the fastest growing fantasy app in the industry. You must be 18 or older and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Concerned to play, call 800-522-4700 or visit www.ncp.gambling.org for more. Thank you again to Underdog Fantasy for sponsoring us here on the Husker Online Show. All right, headline number 4. Wisconsin is poised to become a heavy Big Ten West favorite. They will take on Iowa this weekend in a game where MGM Sports right now has the over-under number set at 36.5.
Down to 34.
It's down to 34.
Just was on Iowa radio before I came on.
So
here.
it's already gone down.
Yeah, down to 34, according to a radio station in Iowa. Games at 3:00 on Fox. It's a huge game. I mean, Wisconsin's 2-0, Sean, in the league. Iowa, I think, is 2-1. They are. Iowa's 2-1. If Wisconsin wins the game, they are in great shape in the West because the rest of their schedules,
other than Ohio State,
really manageable. And they do get Ohio. By the way, they do get Ohio State at Camp Randall, but it is really manageable. So if you're a Nebraska fan, let's be real here. You should cheer for Iowa. I mean, if you want a shakeup in the West, if you want it to not be really settled, you want Iowa to win this game. Somehow you want Iowa to figure out how to win. Somehow you want Iowa to take an offense in there with Deacon Hill, who was 6 for 21 passing against Purdue last week. They won the game against Purdue, Sean, Iowa, without completing a pass to a receiver, which is the first time Iowa's done that since 1978.
And Deacon Hill's a scholarship quarterback, right? He's not like a walk. I mean,
yeah, he is. He's limited. They did not. That's a good word to use for bad players. Limited. Sean, I want to reiterate. Iowa did not have a receiver catch a pass in the game last week. So I don't know if you can go in there and steal that game from Wisconsin or not. I don't think they can, but their defense will keep them in it. You know how they do it. Defense and special teams will probably keep them in it. It's supposed to be really rainy and sloppy. That works in Iowa's favor for sure. So we'll see. But I know where I'm going to be parked at 3:00. I'll have my column done by 3, Sean. I'll tell you that right now.
Deacon Hill was once he's gone from Fordham to Iowa. Looking at his On3 page, but he was 6'3", 230 in high school.
Yeah, he's in the 250s.
I thought he was 280.
Oh, I don't know that.
I thought it was like 276.
Okay,
I thought he was like 270 something.
Yeah, I don't want to speculate on his weight, but he's a big boy.
He is put together.
Yeah.
He was a 4-star though. It wasn't like he was like underrated. I mean, he was highly ranked by everybody.
Mm-hmm. Iowa writers will tell you he's pretty limited, Sean.
No, yeah, it's just interesting that they've gotten down to that, but they were all in on Cade McNamara. All in.
McNamara got hurt. Remember, McNamara got hurt in the off season, and he wasn't the same in the season. He didn't move the same. Anyway, he's gone, and they're really struggling. They got Caleb Johnson back last week, and he ran for 134 yards. That helps. That helps. But I don't know. They don't got a lot of offense. Everybody knows. Come on, it's Iowa. They don't have a lot of offense.
They would love to have Harburg on their roster. Iowa.
You think so?
I mean, he would have been. It was always a mystery to me why they didn't go harder at him. I mean, obviously Nebraska offered him but Harburg at Iowa with his arm talent and the mobility would have been a really good Iowa quarterback too.
Yeah.
But it just the Kirk Ferentz discussion is going to get. They might go 9. Well, it reminds me. We were talking about this. It reminds you a little bit of 2014 Nebraska.
Mm-hmm.
They went 9-3 and they fired Bo Pelini here.
Right.
And it feels like I don't know if they're going to fire Kirk Ferentz, but if this contract thing forces him to move on his son,
right?
Could we see like a Mark Rick Miami thing where they wanted Mark Rick to fire his son, and then Mark Rick retired?
Yeah, that's a good point, Sean. I would tell you this: Ferentz has had the support of Iowa fans for a long time. It's waned though. His support has waned,
but they're winning still. That's what's confusing.
They're 5-1. Yeah, 5-1. They win so ugly, and the nepotism situation wears people out a little bit. The offense constantly struggling. His son is in charge of it. Come on, wouldn't that conversation just wear you out? Every week that's the same conversation. They don't complete a pass to a receiver. Their quarterback goes 6 for 21. I mean, it would get really old. Now, what's going to happen against Wisconsin? Wisconsin's not a great defense. I mean, they might be able to move the ball a little bit on them. It's definitely a game worth watching.
What if they win?
If you're a Nebraska fan, you really want Iowa to win this game. Because Nebraska's in a strangely okay position. If they beat Northwestern and Purdue, they're in it. I mean, you'd have to declare they're in it at that point.
So if Iowa, though, wins the West, and they could easily still do it.
Not easily,
but they could.
Yeah, they could. Not easily.
And they don't meet these offensive metrics. Do you really think the interim AD is going to force Brian Ferentz out?
I have philosophical problems with that. I do. If they would win the West and win 9 games, you shouldn't have to force coaches out.
That's why metrics on the Frost win-loss metric, remember?
Yeah.
Everyone won. Then we found out all it was 6 wins.
Yeah.
But I think you're really putting yourself in a corner when you put a metric on paper.
Mm-hmm.
Points per game metric? What about wins?
Yeah, really odd.
What about wins? Does that matter, or is it? Oh, do you have to score a certain amount of points?
That's why I say I got some philosophical problems with it, unless it's something really extreme. Which now that's where people could say simple. It's extreme. Their offense is terrible. It's extreme.
And the football people you talk to, they'll say that, right?
Yeah, pretty much. I'd want to delve into it a little, but we know their offense is bad.
But yeah,
it's not getting better.
And if Wisconsin wins this game, they could probably slide up in the top 25.
If Iowa does?
No, either one of those teams. But if Wisconsin's not ranked right now, nobody in the Big Ten West is ranked.
Yeah, they could slide in there. You would think for sure Wisconsin would slide in there.
I mean, they're close right now, but they haven't had a quality win.
Big game at Camp Randall.
All right. Before we close the show here on Headline 5, HuskerOnline Headlines brought to you by Caldera Lab. You brush your teeth every day. Well, taking care of your face is equally as important, if not more important. And Caldera Lab has a great, easy 3-step process. Takes a couple of minutes. You do it right when you wake up in the morning. Do it right when you go to bed. It's so easy to do, and you feel the results. Your skin just feels better. You look better, and 94% of men that have used Caldera Lab have shown to look younger and have results. I've been using it now since the start of the season, and I actually just put in another order for it. It is a great product, and it just makes you feel and look a lot younger and help you take care of your face. So we've got a great special right now for our Husker Online users. Go to calderalab.com to receive 20% off by using promo code Husker. That's calderalab.com, promo code Husker, to receive 20% off your order here with Caldera Lab. Thank you again to Caldera Lab for sponsoring us here on the Husker Online Show. All right, headline number 5, Steve Sipple. It's bye weekend here. What are you watching?
Well, Sean, I think you create a roadmap, basically a map of how you want to handle it. And I'm really intrigued. I mean this. I think Michigan has captured our imaginations. They play Indiana in Ann Arbor. They're going to wallop Indiana. But for instance, I wonder if Michigan can get through another game without a turnover, another game without a penalty. They've had one penalty in the last 2 games and no turnovers. Michigan's captured our imaginations. At 11 a.m., they play Indiana. At the same time, what are we always doing? We're always kind of trying to compare Michigan and Ohio State and Penn State. At the same time, so Indiana's playing Michigan on Fox. At the same time, Ohio State's playing Purdue on Peacock. I'm interested. How do those two look simultaneously? I'm just going to be going back and forth. How does Ohio State look compared to Michigan? Ohio State, man, Sean, I watched a Maryland game. I rewatched it. Ohio State couldn't run the ball in Maryland. They had a lot of
Maryland's
trouble.
got some dudes up front, though.
They must, because it was in the third quarter, and Ohio State was averaging 1.1 yards per carry. So now, can Ohio State cut it loose a little bit? They got Marvin Harrison going last week. So that's then the roadmap from there. 2:30 p.m. on ABC, Oregon, Washington's big, huge game in the West Coast.
Biggest game of the day.
Yeah, unless it's USC Notre Dame.
Well, I think this game has more playoff implication.
Yeah, for sure.
It's essentially kind of a quarterfinal game.
It is. So Oregon, Washington is at 2:30, right ahead of Iowa, Wisconsin. So I'll watch a little Oregon, Washington, then settle in on Wisconsin, Iowa at 3 p.m. and then USC Notre Dame at night, 6:30. There's the roadmap.
One game, I'm not going to probably watch a lot of it, but I'll be following it. Michigan State at Rutgers, only because Nebraska plays Michigan State in a few weeks.
Yeah.
And if you're a Husker fan, you want Michigan State just to fall off the tracks.
Yeah.
Like, you want them to just be I mean,
you do.
Half the players wanting to leave, not knowing
Something like that.
Like, you want that game not to have a lot of juice.
Yeah.
You don't want those kids, you don't want Michigan State out there trying to fight in battle. Like, you want their season to feel like it's over by the time you get out there.
Yeah. In this case, falling off the tracks would mean Rutgers. If Rutgers can put a big offensive number on Michigan State, Michigan State's in bad trouble because Rutgers is really challenged offensively. So I don't know.
That might get Rutgers to a bowl game if they win this game.
Yeah, it's pretty big. There's some pretty good games that that I wouldn't put on the map on my personal map.
Kansas at Oklahoma State, pretty 2:30 game.
Pretty
big game for Kansas.
Yeah, Kansas is looking to start 6-1. Okay. Kansas is starting to look is looking like a 6-1 team if they can get this. I mean, I heard somebody say on my other radio show that Oklahoma's got a pretty manageable schedule, except they have to still play at Kansas. Think about that sentence for a second. Like, really, Kansas, Oklahoma, you say the words has to still play at Kansas. Think how far Lance has took that program. It is remarkable how far he's taken that program. I got to quit this because our listeners accuse me of being a homer for
Lance Life. Well, you've known Lance for a long time, but
25 years.
Another game. I'm looking at Big Ten matchups here.
There's not much.
Maryland, Illinois. I just want to see if Bielema gets them to play any better.
Yeah.
I mean, they could go out to Maryland and just get drilled.
That's what I expect. I suspect that they'll get drilled.
Well, and listen to this.
Really drilled.
So Caleb Pike from Omaha Central, offensive lineman who's committed to Illinois, is decommitted. Tanner Hollinger, who's committed as a tight end from Cross County, 8-man school in Nebraska, to Illinois, he announced he's been invited to the Nebraska game. And usually when you announce the invite, it usually means you're going to visit. So they're having some trouble with their recruits at Illinois. So
I imagine they are. Their offense you saw their offense.
But I just can't imagine Whitman's not going to make any kind of move on Bielema. It's probably more like coordinators and staff.
Now this week, Bielema didn't make a move on the offensive coordinator, and it doesn't sound like he's going to. We thought that listening to his press conference after the Nebraska game, we thought maybe he was getting ready to. In fact, one of the writers we talked to already had a story ready, but it didn't happen. Barry Lunny Jr. is still the offensive coordinator, and it doesn't look like Bielema's poised to make a move. He just wants Lunny to make changes. So, and though they're really hurt. I mean, they're down to the nubs at running back.
They can't run the ball.
Their offensive line's banged up. They just don't have much.
Obviously, a couple big night games too. USC Notre Dame,
huge.
USC on the road, but
huge.
Then UCLA is at Oregon State.
Pretty big.
That's a 7:00 Fox game.
Pretty big.
Big Ten implications.
Pretty big. Big game.
So it should be good. I'm going to be in Kansas City though.
Oh boy,
you're going to go anywhere?
You're not watching?
Yeah, we've kind of done this every bye. We like to go down there just for a couple days and just
try to pay attention to scores.
I do. Trust me. Like, I stream. I have my phone going wherever we're at. But let the Callahan ladies have a weekend.
Yeah, that sounds fun. Any restaurant plans?
We tend to go to Jack Stacks.
Okay.
And also Joe's, the Overland Park Joe's, not the gas station one. They have the same menu at all of them.
That sounds good.
But
that sounds really good.
Like, I basically give up a lot. I let them do all the shopping, and I get to eat the barbecue.
And I've said my map. We'll see family considerations. I always worry about whether it's going to work out or not. As of now, that's what I kind of want to do. We'll see if it shakes out that way. I might have to pull some strings.
Oh, and exciting news for our next post-game show. Big Red Smoke reached out to me, and he runs a catering business, Steve Sipple, for barbecue and makes his own margaritas and other drinks. He is going to bring you your post-game margarita for the next Husker Online post-game live show.
What a dude.
So Big Red Smoke is going to bring, he said, pork belly, burnt ends, ribs, smoked chicken wings, etc.
Smoke. I'll tell you something, Sean. Smoked chicken wings and margaritas.
Now he wanted to know: do you like sugar or salt on your margarita?
Don't put sugar on it.
Salt.
Yeah, salt. Heavy salt.
I'm a Bloody Mary. I'm not a marg guy.
That's fine.
So I'll do a bloody. Otherwise, I'll just drink our
wings and a margarita
post game next. Game.
I will not be surly if that happens. I promise. I'll be like Regis Philbin if that happens.
And it's our unofficial new tradition. We'll promote your business a little bit if you want to give Steve Sipple's post-game margarita.
Yeah, and see me in a better mood.
maybe we'll get a better show out of you.
Stop it.
All right. Well,
I'll be like Alex Trebek.
Hopefully everybody has a great bye weekend, enjoys the Saturday off. Get some football in, gets out of town, but make sure you check out HuskerOnline.com. You can try us out for $1 for your first month. Take advantage of that great special. Plenty of great content, including Steve Sipple's Sunday column this weekend. So make sure you get on HuskerOnline.com. Signing off here for Husker Online Headlines. For Steve Sipple, I'm Sean Callahan.